Hello, hello. Welcome. Hi. Okay, just adding a pin here. Hi.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Caro?
Doing really well. Doing really well. It's a beautiful thing, you.
You look radiant in purple. Purple, purple. We got
Yeah,
our plant peoples behind us holding the space.
gotta have the plants, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Thank you so much for using your platform. Something's going on with mine because it was hacked, remember?
Yeah.
So I
Technology's
really,
walling out. Technology's walling out these days.
well, I appreciate you.
You're
The
welcome.
reason why I wanted to, interview you, do this interview, is because I'm a fan of what you do. I think you do it brilliantly. And I know personally um, the healing necessity of what you do as somebody who is in birth.
Yeah.
And when we did, when you joined the class, my training,
Mhm.
and you had those realizations, and then just to see how you took the training, brought your gifts, and now have created this really powerful space
Mm.
that I feel deeply that everybody who is a healer, a birth worker, different practitioner of different modalities should be laying down around you or anybody really, yeah, all the things. Self-care is not an option. You have to do it, right?
Thank you for that. And hi, everyone. Hello, 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 hello. All of
Hello,
you
everybody.
waving at all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
hmm So let's begin by just telling your story about how it was calling you before you even were consciously aware. And then when you saw that I was doing the training, you jumped in, and you jumped all in too, which was amazing. You had no hesitation. You were present. You were and gave so much to the class. So I would just love to hear
Mm,
your journey.
thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Onyi. I also go by Onyi Love. I have like 50 million other names.
She does.
And one of the titles that I use for myself is a healing artist and priestess. Priestess within the Ifa tradition, specifically a priestess of Orisha, Oshun, and Obatala. And I'm an artist. So I'm a singer, I'm a dancer, I create things. And where the two, where one begins and the other ends, they're really, it's just all together. It just, and the work just happens together. Through my art, I'm healing or reminding people of their ability to heal. And I
hmm
see my healing work as art as well. So it's just really beautiful for me to um, have the opportunity to be in that space and to give in that way. And so I've been doing that work for some time, and continue to just kind of navigate my role as a priestess and a student of life and all the things. And I just follow spirit. And sometimes that can mean a word just keeps like staying in my mind. People will say things, I'll hear things repeated. And so then I start to wonder, okay, what is that for me? And doula was one of
Doula.
those things.
Yeah, it was.
It was the first time I had heard it, and I had not been familiar with the word years ago. And then I think over the last few years, I became more familiar and I was meeting people who are doulas
hmm
in different ways. So then I started becoming more familiar with it, but never thought it was something that was my work, or never thought that my work could be called, doing doula work. And I remember it was a few years ago, I think it was 2016 or 17. I went to do a wedding. So this couple hired me to do like a ritual ceremony for their wedding, not their actual wedding ritual, but just a ritual with the attendees before they had their actual ceremony. And so I arrived to the location and I'm looking for someone to help me with my things. And the first person that I see, and I don't even describe what I'm doing necessarily, except for just saying, hey, I'm here for the wedding to do this thing. And the person says, oh, are you a doula? And I was like, how did she get that from everything I just told her? It just seemed weird to me because in my mind, traditionally, doulas deal with like the physical birthing of humans in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, no, I'm not. I was like, I'm not a doula. What? Like, what? I don't even know what that. I don't do that work, but this is the work that I do. She's like, well, there's different types of doulas, and I was like, dang, interesting. So that stayed in my mind. And then, so a few years later, I'm at another event doing a ritual ceremony, and this person who had been in it, she was like, oh my God, that was so amazing. That was so beautiful. And, you know, I'm having a child on this, and this date. And I was wondering, do you do like doula work? And I was like, no, but you're the second person that has said something. And then I think I went to another event, just a social gathering, and I sat right next to a doula. And I was like, you know what? 3 times. 3 times. So what we gonna do is
listen.
check to see if I need to look into being a doula, because clearly there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking about who I could reach out to. And you were the first person that came to mind. I was like, oh, doula. And it's funny how we, you know, connected, because we have a lot of similar friends in our intersecting circles. And we just kept hearing of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so we finally were at an event together. And I think we just like looked across the room at each other like, we need to know each other.
Yep.
We need to hang out.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. And it was really lovely. And that was what, a couple years before I reached out to you
mm-hmm.
about doula work. And so I just reached out and said, you know what? I keep getting doula. Don't know what it means. I don't necessarily see that I'm like necessarily drawn to the work per se, but it keeps coming up and I'm just going to follow it. So are you teaching? And you were like, well, funny enough that you mentioned it, because I'm, you know, starting my next cohort for Get Rooted. And I just said, okay, I'm going to take it. Just going to do it. Like, it keeps coming up, and I just listen, and Spirit will show me what I need to do. And if that means being a doula, even if my mind doesn't put the two together for what I do, then I will just follow Spirit, because that is my life's work, to just be a vessel for Spirit to channel whatever information needs to be channeled, however it needs to look. And it was an interesting experience.
Right? The thing that I love witnessing is how when people come into the training, they think they're coming in to learn how to support somebody, how to educate people, navigate the whole pregnancy. And that's a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to do our own individual work first so we can show up in that space and really hold that container well, right?
Yeah.
So what's always interesting to me is like people just start going in and they're like, wait, I have to do this? Is this what you say to them, or are you saying that we have to do this? I'm like, yeah, we can't ask them to do something that we're not willing to participate in. Yeah. And it's important that you know yourself and know your edges and know your truth and what you have to give before you get in that space, and then know what your purpose is.
That's the part. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And because that why has to be huge to do this work. It can't be because I want people to see me in a certain way. That's not it. That's just not it.
And it's interesting because, you know, I always navigate the extremes. It's like on the one part, I was like, I want people to see me doing the thing. And then on the other side, I'm like, don't look at me.
I'm the same way. I'm an introvert, extrovert, or extrovert, introvert. Yeah. What are the things?
Yeah. And I think also the part of me too is, you know, I am very mindful, and it could be on, you know, bordering a little extreme, but again, I'm the extremes. Like, I'm very cautious about the titles that I use. And I think I've become more and more so, and I've kind of grounded more so in this place of like humility and things. Because I think, you know, as we're younger, we're like, I can do whatever I want and all the things. And then you just go through life and experiences, and you're with your teachers, and you just start to your humility starts to really ground deeper and deeper. And even my priest was saying that to me, how he's, noticed a shift with me. Like, not that you weren't humble before, but like I've seen, you become even more so since your initiation of just this place of like, let me not rush to do things or rush to call myself these things. And also being mindful of calling myself these things. Like, my perspective, there's a whole lot of people out there calling themselves all kinds of things.
Okay.
And I'm
Just
like,
doing bypasses. I'm like, wait a minute. Last
ah,
year, I know for a fact that you weren't this, and I know that it can't get done in several months. We're talking years. How are you doing that? It's really interesting.
it is. And I want to honor the fact that people have their own destinies, their own individual journeys, and who's to
Mm-hmm.
say what someone was told or not told and whatever experience they had, and I honor that. And on the flip side, I think in our capitalistic, commercializing nation, world,
Mm-hmm.
all the things, there's this idea of like the prestige and the honor and the popularity that come with calling yourself something, but you don't have the work or the understanding or the reverence to back it up.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then now you calling yourself this thing because it looks good, fancy. People are coming to you and people need support. They're looking for support, sometimes like from a very anxious place. And they see these like buzzwords and these like things are like, oh, this person, that person, I need that. There's a lot of imbalance there. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're imbalanced because you're putting something out from your place of anxiety called, I want to be seen as this.
Mm-hmm.
People need help and they're coming from a place of anxiety. And then when the two collide,
Exactly. Exactly. That's why one of the things that was really important to me in the training was the understanding that this is an egoless field. It is not about us. It is not about what we want to happen. We are supporting the vision of these different families. It's not, it has nothing to do with me. I'm just being graced to be in the room to support, and that idea that I'm not running by my ego, I'm not led by my ego, that I'm this heart-led presence in the space
yeah,
to remind people of their power and to let them know that they're safe. That was really, really important to me.
yeah.
um I purposely did not read your bio out loud to people because I was going to start with that and say, oh yes, but I would love for you to give them your elevator pitch statement, boom, just like that, really quick, and just like the truth of who you are is going to come out.
Okay. I am here to remind you of your joy, your peace, and that you have the permission to be who you are, period. Whatever that looks like, whatever that sounds like, whatever that feels like, you get to be that. You get to be the version of who you are in this present moment. You are not your past.
Mm-hmm.
And my work is to reflect that you are not your past and you have command of your existence. You get to choose whatever you choose, no matter what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And existence supports you with that. And I will help you reflect that through my hands, through my voice, through just
All of
looking at
it.
you,
All of it.
through my own reflections and what I've gone through myself. Anything to jog you back into the memory of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Period.
Yeah. And I definitely feel that having benefited from your healing voice and your healing hands, I know the importance of it. We were speaking about how, I have like a team that helps me keep going, right? I do a lot of things around my wellness, my mental health, my emotional, and my physical body. And I do it weekly. And those are the priority for me. So I can do what I'm doing in community without, resorting to caffeine and things. Caffeine makes me crazy. So I have to find other ways of, sustaining my energy. And green juice works great for me. Adaptogen mushrooms work amazing for me. And those are the things I jump to and I go to and I rely upon, but also the different healing modalities that could support my reset. You know, and I think I saw you at one of our mutual friends' home, and I had just done like 3 births in a row or something ridiculous. And you said, "How are you here?" I said, "I'm not staying long. I just have to give some love and I'm going home." And I hadn't even said anything to you, but you saw me, and you came over and you said, and I didn't even get a full-on session with you. You gave me what I needed to be okay in my body and to go restore deeply and rest when I would lay down.
Yeah.
It was the best, what was it, 10, 15 minutes? What was it? It wasn't even a...
Like, it was like a partial of a one half of a session.
And I just felt like I had just got born. I was just like, oh, thank you. I was so grateful. But it also let me know, okay, this next step in the team that I have that supports me to be in community, that I support them doing what they're doing. I said, I need to get Onyi in that mix. I need her energy. I need your voice. Your voice is so healing. And when you sing over me, or like when we were singing to support people in class,
Yes, yeah.
it is such a heart opener and a chakra aligner. And it just resets that vagus nerve. And it's just kind of, I don't know, it's your voice and how it lands on the body.
Thank you.
Is brilliant. And I'm really grateful that you came to an awareness for yourself through this class of what you want to do and what you're up to. And I would love for you to share what you got from the training, what you got from the business side that actually helped you find what you're up to now. And then I want you to speak about last week's interview.
Oh, yeah. We'd love to. Yeah, again, spirit just moves the way it does and tells me what I need to do, even if it's in ways that I'm like, why? Because, for me, it's like, I have my website. I have a lot of the logistical things in place to do my spiritual business, and I had specific modalities and offerings that I, was providing to the public. And so I'd already been in that place. And then with the pandemic and everything, obviously that shifted things around for everybody. So even going from doing more kind of physical based things to, virtual things was interesting, but all my work pretty much can be done virtually or physically because energy is energy is energy, regardless of time, space, distance, all the things. So starting your class was interesting because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, because you had the idea, I'm going to be a doula, so I'm taking this doula class. And what Spirit was doing through that class was helping me to look into the world of doulas and birth workers to see like what they experience doing the work, and then what they themselves are holding as far as like just their own stuff. And then it's like, how does that play into the work? And what are people bringing into the work? And then this kind of, it transcended doulas, but it's like, oh, whoa, healers are people. People with their pain and their trauma, all the things they've been dealing with in any given day, over any given amount of time, through their ancestry, all the things. They're people. And I think people put healers, doulas, all, people who do specific types of work on this pedestal of like, you're healing me, you're invincible, you're da 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 da. But it's like, I'm human. And I'm holding space for you. And yes, I've gone through certain training to be able to do the thing, logistically in all the ways that I need to do. And I've gone through training, either just self-training or through the programs I've been to learn how to put my stuff aside so that I can hold space for you. And they're still human because there's the stuff they put aside.
Exactly.
And then if you were human, so sometimes the stuff you put aside isn't necessarily put aside because for whatever reason, it just starts to creep in. Or perhaps you need to dig into that stuff because there's something there that's going to help you do the work or hold space because, okay, that experience you had 15 years ago, it was painful for you, but the lessons that you learned, you transmute that and use that in the work.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you're human. So there still might be those things that you're attaching to that then can potentially get in the way of you showing up as fully as you could. So that's an interesting to think about. And I think I was, and I'm sure you were probably like watching my face
I
in
was
class.
watching all of you guys because I was just like, because, you know, you do the work yourself, you do it on you so that when you are in the space of supporting a family and there is ancestral trauma or generational trauma or violence or anything that's in that person's history, if it's not resolved, excavated, made flat, it's going to show up in that space and you can't ignore it.
Yeah, you cannot. So you got to learn to either, okay, it's showing up and we gonna do it all together, which some people are brilliant at.
Mm-hmm.
Some people know how to still, okay, they came up, push it aside and we'll just focus on here. And then other people, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, for me, it was just considering, and I think, you know, there were different people that were telling their stories in class about their own traumatic birth stories and, you know, whether it was male or female and what they dealt with or dealing with, you know, hospital practitioners and like lack of compassion and all these things. And these are the experiences of the doulas themselves. They're not talking about the trauma that their client, this is the trauma they've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like, I'm just listening to this. And of course my like mind is like, heart's like, body's like, and just.
I love how you just did that in several different keys. You're amazing. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
And I played.
I just felt.
Music is so great. I just feel like it should be inserted everywhere. But there was one class, I had finished eating some food and I get on the call.
And what was
all
I
of a sudden,
saying? It was something I was talking.
What was it?
I don't remember, but it was something I was saying and asking of everyone. And, you know, I said something about taking a deep dive, being transparent, telling yourself the truth, and then seeing what you can actually let go of, or something around that nature. And I watched you, and you were, and I could just see everything happening. And that's when I said, so if you need to take care of yourself, do not sit here in this class and suffer. You know, there, of course, when we hit certain parts that reflect our healing places, sometimes that makes us get a little tired, makes us kind of start drifting because we're avoiding what's here. But other times it hits and it starts and it's happening and you need to step away so you can take care of yourself. And that you're showing up that way, your communication about what was happening opened up so much in the room as you left. You left and we spoke about holding space for you and what that meant energetically and sending you, you know, some of that loving energy while you were doing your work. And it just went boom, 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 boom.
Thank you.
It was, you added so much to.
Oh, thank you. And I didn't even know that part. I was like, I just, you know, and for everyone. So basically what had happened is as class was starting and as Haize was beginning the lesson for the day, I just felt this like, whoosh. It felt like, the only way I can describe it was like fatigue on a deep level. And of course, my mind, because I'd be intellectualizing everything, I'm like, what happened? I was like, was it the food that I ate? But I was like, but I typically eat before. I was like, what is going on? I'm trying to rationalize it. And I just was like staring blankly at the Zoom screen, just looking.
Yeah. I could see you were like bone weary, tired. Like it just, from the inside out.
Something I don't recall that I've ever felt before. And okay, to go back to this, it's like, how many times do any one of us in this field or in any field feel how we're feeling in the middle of doing something, but because of this idea that I just need to push through it, I just need to stay in the class because if I don't, then it's gonna look, versus being like, you know what? Hey, I'm having something happening here and I need to actually step away.
Mm-hmm.
And I texted in the chat, I was like, hey guys, feeling a little odd. I think I need to get off class right now. And everyone was so supportive. It was great. And hey, she was like, I see you. Okay, you do your thing. And in that moment, Spirit's like, you don't need to try to figure out what you're going through. You're going through something. So take a step back. And so I did. And it's funny too, because, and I don't even know if you know this, but I had something that I needed to get out. Like I needed to record some kind of musical thing. And of course I could have been like, let me do it tomorrow. But in my mind, I was like, let me just do it now.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows if it helped me being in that state, but I just got it done. And then I just went and laid down. I think it was like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. I think that's the earliest I've been to bed since like I was a child. I went to bed, I woke up, and not even like, oh, I woke up at 6 a.m. because I woke up at like 9, 10. I slept for hours. And I got up and I was like, what happened to me? And I checked in with myself. I did all the different things that I needed to do. So I knew it wasn't something physical because you got to make sure you check all your boxes to,
Mm-hmm.
And I had a channeling session with one of my teachers, channels this information, this energy. And I was like, something happened to me in this doula class that I took, or something happened to me. And I'm like, what was it? And he asked, okay, describe. And I was like, I was in a doula class, this was happening. He's like, He's like, okay, you had a massive download. And I was like, oh. It's like, yeah, you had a pretty significant download and it definitely disoriented you to where you had to take a moment to reorient yourself. You were able to handle it, but you just needed that time to ground back.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what happened? Like, can you tell me what happened? He's like, no, you'll learn. You'll understand what it is. I'm like, no, just tell me.
Our teachers always do that to us.
Tell me now.
Tell me.
And this was what, May? When was May?
Yes.
It's May.
May of
2020.
2020. Because I had just started, because out of the pandemic.
Yeah, 2021, I think.
Yeah, I started seeing what was happening in the world. And I also was watching these numbers increasing. And I just knew that, I said, there's something I can do. I can't take care of the world. I can't change the world. But in this one area, I can actually make a difference and create an impact that will help support women and families in birth and can change their outcomes. I saw there was a labor shortage. We needed more doulas. We didn't have enough. Like everybody was frantic trying to support all these women who decided not to have a hospital birth but have a home birth, and then some who were in the hospital but felt really afraid, and so but there wasn't enough to go around. So I said, I'm going to start training. And then there was a lot of people who were going to have hospital births and took a class that was for hospitals. So I thought, okay, I could start teaching childbirth education so that everybody gets the information that a home birth family gets.
Yeah.
So they can have powerful choices about what they're up to,
Yeah.
And so that's how that came in. But would you guys, like you guys took it a whole nother level. So the first cohort, I'm like figuring it out and I'm like, I'm learning, you guys are learning, we're all doing this together. By the time your group came along, I had it pretty good, but you guys deepened it, opened it up because of your ability to share. There were so many healers in that space too, of all different kinds of medicine.
Yeah.
Right? And all diversity like crazy.
Yeah.
And so it became more. Yeah. And with each cohort now, it deepens, it expands, and we really cover the full spectrum of what it means to support someone through transformation or transition in whatever way that's reflected, whatever that is. So when you did this, first of all, everyone got quiet, and then it was like literally energy,
Hmm.
ideas, affirmations, inspiration hits. It was nuts.
Wow.
You created a space and an opening
Hmm.
where they started questioning why would they sit there and suffer and not take care of themselves. But that's how we're conditioned here in America. We want things easy, we want things instantly, and we can't look frail, we can't look weak, we can't, all this stuff that
Hmm.
is not the truth of who we are in as spiritual beings having a human experience. We are emotion, we are joy, we are expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. You know,
We're the
that's how we,
we're the
yeah,
spectrum.
spectrum.
And we don't allow ourselves, we pigeonhole ourselves into or agree to the pigeonholing of like one particular sliver of the spectrum, which then forces all that energy into that small space, which that small space can't handle all that energy. It needs to be spread across the spectrum.
Exactly.
And it's so, as you're talking about our cohort and just, I keep getting things clarified, because, a big part of what that class helped me to do is like the starting, or just, it was like the turning point for me to really understand my specific calling and who my target audience is, because that's
Exactly.
always been so I remember this was all from, so you had that business element, right? You're
Well,
like, who's
that
your
business
class?
part is
All the
real.
things. And I was always like, but everybody is my target.
Yeah, I'm like,
I
nope.
want, like, everybody, doesn't everyone need healing? Like, it was always odd to me. And I did the exercises. I was like, okay, I'll just put the things, and I'll like look at my Instagram, like, target things and see who my audience is on Instagram. But it didn't click for me, because it's like, my thing is like, everyone needs healing. So whoever comes to me just needs healing. I'm like, that's my target. And so it was months again. So after my teacher was like, you'll learn, I was like, okay, fine. And then over time, like a couple months after that, I applied for this program that offered mentorship to small business owners. And I had a really wonderful business coach who helped me develop my business plan. I didn't have a business plan before. And again, that question of like, describe your target audience. And I was like, fine, I don't know. So I was still being like very vague.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to France,
Mm-hmm.
because France kept calling me again. Spirits was like, France, France, France. And I'm like, France? It wasn't like top of my list. I know other people were like, oh my God, France. I was like, France? Like, there's other places I could probably go to. France, France, France. And I was like, okay, Spirit, I guess you want me to go to France. I'm going to go to France and see what there is. And I went to the south of France.
Beautiful.
And it was exactly what I needed, in a way that I didn't even imagine, because the energy that I sat in and walked away having really grounded in was this energy of compassion, this energy of being cared for, this energy of being held, of being fed, of being just seen as who not as Onyi the singer, Onyi the, just like, they didn't really know what I did unless I mentioned it. And even then, they were like, oh, that's wonderful. And then they just engaged with me as I was to myself. And it was the first time either ever or in a long time that I had felt that. And I was there for a month. So spirit, and I was right by the water, right by the mountain, so that Oshun,
Mm-hmm.
Tala energy. And they're like, you're gonna marinate here. You're gonna stay here. You're not gonna like, oh, let me hop around to different. No, you're gonna stay here, marinate in that, because you need it.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back, and I had another session with the channeling with my teacher who does the channeling, and talked about France. He's like, and I was like, yeah, I went to France and I had this experience and it was wonderful. And this is what I felt. He's like, now what are you going to do with that energy? And I was like, interesting. And then I circled back. I was like, remember when you told me about the thing that I had the last time in the doula class? I was like, what I'm getting is that, like, I need to support like groups of people in their healing, not just individual sessions, which I had been focusing on in the past, but I was just getting this energy of group work. Again, in our doula class, the cohort was like a group of healers, even though we were coming together under the umbrella of learning. Doulaship, but it's like a group of healers. So that was already like ding, ding, ding. Talking to him is like, doing that group work, shamanic work. So that was kind of like the second piece that was like turning the key. And then the third piece for me, or maybe the fourth, was I actually had the opportunity to do a healing session on one of my practitioners, my chiropractor. I kind of similar to you, where like a few years back when I had learned pure bioenergy, the laying of hands modality that I do. And I was like so excited. I was like, oh my God, Dr. Marty. I was like, yeah, have you ever heard of this? And like, let me do a session on you. And I did like 5-minute session, and he was like,
it's so good.
He just feels it like this, and you see it viscerally. And I was like, oh my gosh. And that was years ago. And so circle back around to this year, before I left for France, he actually mentioned he was having some surgery. And I was like, Dr. Martin, I was like, you should come see me. I'm like, I would totally love to work on you. I'm like, he's just done so much for me, oftentimes without me paying, that I was like, I would love to treat him to a session to support his own healing. And I came back from France, having felt all that energy. He was like, whew. Had the session with him. He came for the full treatment. And throughout, we would talk about it, and he was just like, it's been such a joy to work with you. And he's like, the thing that I love about you, and it sounds funny when you say, he's like, I get nothing from you. I was like, describe more. He's like, you're doing the session, the therapy, and you're having a good time doing your thing. He's like, but you could care less what I do with it. You're focused on doing the technique and letting the energy move through you. It's like, I'm not getting any of your stuff. Nothing but my guides and all my things. They're like working with me as you're working with me. So you're here holding space, doing your thing. I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing it. And my guides are working with me, working with you, and you're not transferring anything to me.
Exactly.
Like, I've been in other situations where I go to a healer, a person, and I just get their stuff, and I walk out being like, oh my God, why do I feel worse than I came in? And I was just like, oh, it's like, that's so interesting. Thank you. I was like, thank you for that. And he sent some of his clients to me, or, told them they should go see me. Certain clients who were just kind of still holding on to certain things. And so it was listening to that, having a follow-up session with him for my own session with him. And I was like, I think I'm really clear on what my purpose is. It's like, I think I need to support practitioners, because for whatever reason, I think it's because of a lot of the self-work that I do, whatever the energy that I hold, that I came in with, that I've cultivated and will continue to cultivate, like, I'm able to hold space for a lot. And the healers really need support.
Yeah.
Period, in general, and especially in light of this pandemic. We have been in a global pandemic, still in one. We ain't out of it yet.
I was going to say, it's
still in one. And we're still in it. So therefore, sometimes people are able to do the work after they've got out of something. Not a lot of people know how to do the work while in the thing. So we're still in it. When we come out, it's going to be like the floodgates of like all the recognition of the toll and everything. I mean, people are suffering and grieving all the things, but it's like we haven't even begun to really process collectively. And it's not like the healers were in like a little bubble, like, oh, pandemic is everywhere else, and we're like fine. So no, pandemic as well, working through the pandemic, some people working even more because of all the different elements of it, right?
Yeah, we actually ended up working more.
So working more and filling your own stuff on top of anything else you already had that may or may not have been addressed. And as the floodgates of people continue to flow in even more, the healers are going to be needed. it's not like they were like, oh, take a break. You take a year, healers, to like ground yourself and do the things. And then everyone, nope, people need it. So I was just like, maybe my work is to heal, help the healers heal.
When you called me and said, I think I know, this is what my purpose is. And I could feel it. And I was like, yes, definitely. Because I've seen the experience of you doing group, singing over people, doing the sound. I mean, it's amazing. And when people heal together, it's really beyond that space. It becomes energetically around, it goes generations, ancestral. Like there's a release and a let go and a reset that is so powerful and so beautiful. And I think one of the things that has always floored me is when I'm doing this Get Rid of Doula training, and my emphasis is on some very specific things. And when I'm doing all this, okay, I need you to go in and do your work, and everybody usually after the first two classes, like, why do we have to do? I said because it takes a lot of energy to hold space for people. It takes a lot of energy to be in that energy. It's so intimate. It's so primal. It's so sacred. And if you do not have an understanding of what's happening in your body on all these different levels and how to take care of yourself, then me training you is a waste of, you're not going to be able to do it. You're not, it's a waste of your time.
Yeah.
Healers absolutely need to know where their edges are, how to smooth those edges down, when they're like, what situations happen where they feel squeezed and like they can't take it,
Mm-hmm.
and how do they relieve that and expand in the space like this. It has to be a constant awareness and practice.
Yeah.
And that's why what you're speaking to is exactly why I put so much emphasis on true self-care, true sustainability, because otherwise birth work is not sustainable. Who can do it? Who can do it that long, So if you are doing the things that will help you stay, juicy in it, just like we want the mom to stay juicy in it,
Mm-hmm.
then you have a shot of really making an impact. My whole idea was to uplift humanity through birth,
Mm.
one family at a time,
Mm. Mm.
and have it just spiral out, ripple out like that.
Okay.
And I really feel that the more we can do this type of work, the better not only the birth outcomes are,
Mm.
but the people in those births actually transform. I love to see when the parents get it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and
Yeah.
and they change their lives around for their healing, for their self-care. It's essential. Like I said, I have a team. My
Mm-hmm.
trainer, I love Cody. He's always working with me because he knows, because he's seen me in a birth. So he
Mm.
knows what is called of me. He knows how I'm moving, where
Yeah.
the stress is in my body, and he sits there and he helps me stay flexible, strengthen,
Mm.
and be more mobile.
Mm-hmm.
That's important. That is really important. Otherwise, I'm in this mode all the time, reaching out to people, leaning
Yeah.
over, and I could be that. We've
Yeah.
seen what that looks like, where people just age and they're curved, and he is very clear of how he wants me to move. So now I'm on it. And I take a lot of things with me to birth
Mm-hmm.
so that while I'm waiting, while mom is sleeping, while something's happening, I can actually lay on my acupressure mat, or I can use my fascia blaster, between my trainer, my chiropractor, my massage therapist, everything, I'm able to do this and do it without it costing me
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
all these levels,
Yeah.
which is why I just love that you are you're in this, that you see a need, you're feeling that need. And I just want everybody to come and check you out.
Mm-hmm.
I love what you're starting. Please tell everybody about Healing the Healers and the interview you did last week that was really
Yeah.
launching and giving information about what you're up to. And then let us know what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Thank you. Well, when I got clear about Heal the Healers, which I'd been talking about for some time before I really said, okay, I need to launch this. The initial idea, which is still there, was to create a set of resources for different groups of individuals, different groups of healers. So for me, and I'm using healer as a very
Mm-hmm.
broad category, and I even have my understanding of healing is like, we heal ourselves. At the end of the day, we
Yes,
heal ourselves. The
exactly.
healer holds space and is vibrating at a frequency that they invite you to match. That is the healed state, which is why it's very important for them to be healed themselves. Vibrate at that state. So again, the healing can occur. And for me, I wanted to look at, okay, what are the different categories of people I can put in this like healer category? So I was like, okay, birth workers, first responders, medical practitioners, spiritual leaders, educators, like who are those
Therapist,
individuals? I'm sorry?
therapist.
Therapists, who are
They're
those
holding it down.
individuals holding it down all the time in all the different ways? Who are those individuals that are serving the collective in their own healing? And a friend of mine who we were kind of brainstorming a little bit about it, she said death workers. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even like consider death workers. And I was like coroners, like morticians, the people that have to take care of what has happened in an accident when, there are bodies. I was like, oh my, whoa. So just, helping me to see like what are those groups of people. And I'm sure we can expand it out and out and out. Like just the need for people to heal in and of itself is there. But I wanted to focus on these individuals because again, in droves, the masses are coming to them and will be coming to them as we process everything that has happened over the last 2.5, 3 years. So the idea was I would create a set of resources based on the work that I do that include sound healing, that include ritual ceremony, that include all sorts of things specific to these groups of people. So, I'm still curating those pieces. And in the meantime, I was like, okay, I got to announce this thing because I could procrastinate and like wait till it's all done. And then I was like, let me announce it, so I can just already open the doors. So I announced it in my newsletter. Kind of got a few different people who reached out saying they're interested. And then the next phase, it came to me to start going live on some platform to talk about it. And I made the decision to go on YouTube. My, larger block of my audience is on Instagram, but something about moving to a bigger platform where just anyone could have access was there. So I went to YouTube and I basically was like, okay, let me just go on and describe the initiative. Did that 20 or so minute conversation with myself, with the audience of just describing it. If you're interested, contact me. Then it came to me, okay, no, have conversations each week for a certain amount of time. And I was like, okay. So the next time I was like, well, I don't want it to just be me again. And I was like, oh, let me invite a friend of mine who we do a lot of similar work in some ways, did a lot of different work in other ways, but in the realms of like ethereal energy, like spiritual energy and so forth. And she's a soothsayer, tarot reader, channeler in different ways. And I was like, hey, are you available to have this conversation? She was available. So we talked. And we talked it. So basically, I was able to create the format based on the conversation that I had with her, my friend Sonia Estelle, where I asked her, what is it? Describe your work. What is it you need from the collective in order to help you do your work better? How can the collective show up and take responsibility for their part so that all you have to do is the work you're actually doing?
Yeah.
What do you need for your healing? And what does Heal the Healers mean to you? And so it was a beautiful conversation with her. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to use that format with each and I'm going to just have conversations with different groups of people. So then the next week, what was coming to me was death workers. So I put out a call on Instagram, said looking for death workers, people who work in death or transition, end of life. And so one of the individuals that responded was Tanya Abernathy. And
Love
she,
her.
huh?
Love her.
She's fabulous. And I didn't know her. I just met her through Instagram. She replied and I kind of went back and forth with her, asked her some questions to feel out kind of her experience, and based on everything she described to me, I was just like, yeah, she needs to be on. And then I was like, you know what? It would be interesting to have a birth worker and to have this dialogue between a birth and death worker. And so I was like, the first one, I was like, Haize. I was like, are you available? I don't know if you will because I know you'd be busy. I was like, I feel like every other minute you're like in a birth or just came out of a birth. So, but you were available. And even when you said yes, I was like, oh God, is she going to have something immediate, like emergency come up? And she's not, I was just like, but I was like, trust, even if it's just me and Tanya will be fine. Mm-hmm. And you were, I was like, oh my God, thank you. And the conversation, even before the conversation we had, and I have the clip on my page of just like our just behind the scenes prep, just the energy that was in the space of like life through birth and death. It's all life, yet we have different perspectives about it. And then also people don't really fully ground in the immensity of that energy, and then the responsibility that you have as people who work with birth and death. Mm-hmm. And I think just that recognition was like, and the energy was, and it was already like windy that day, and it was like all the things were happening.
Oya was doing like everything that day. I think we even did a little Oya in the video.
We were. Transformation, transition, uprooting, the letting go of things, the birthing of ancestors. And you and the work you do, you're sitting in, you're holding space for all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, she was incredibly powerful. And what I loved about it is she felt the same way I did. For us, the first breath is very similar to the last breath. The joy, a celebration of a life coming, the joy and celebration of a life well lived. And being able to be with that and to share that. It was a great interview. You curated it amazing. I'm gonna have to put it. I haven't posted it yet. I'm gonna do it. I had birth after that.
Right. they're like, save the birth until after the interview.
Exactly. I have someone in labor now. It's like, what?
But it's like, again, it's like you're in like life and death happening all the time. It's not like, oh, let me take a weekend break because there's no births this weekend. No. It's like you might have your, your dedicated time off because you've carved out that time for you. But even so, it's not. That's interesting.
What did you hear?
You may take those moments of self-care time to not be directly in the work, but because that's the work that you signed up to do and the agreement you made with existence, you're still holding space for that energy.
Yeah, always.
Always. Life and death is happening all the time. And you are companioning that energy, which means you're doing it all the time. So you really never get a break from it. You just have those moments where you're, okay, grounding, eating, taking just the things to handle your physical being, but you're still always connected to that energy.
Especially my recovery is all about that energy. I go to the ocean. I'll go to the desert. I'll go to the mountains of Ojai. My backyard, before they tore it down, was my sanctuary space, and so I need that to take care of myself. And when we were in that discussion and you started asking us, what did it mean to us, heal the healers? I think that struck us in such a profound way. For me, I have an amazing village tribe that really does support and take care of me. My kids, brings me food. Like, they just really show up for me. But there was something about the way that you said that let us know that we also have to really show up for ourselves. When you say heal the healers, it's like healers, allow yourself to be healed. And that was beautiful. That we have a place to let go and nourish ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
see where we need to grow or see where we need to let something die away from ourselves.
The seat of the healer, you also get to sit in that. It's there for you too. Just because you hold the space as a healer doesn't mean like, okay, but that's the only role you get to. If it's no, like you get to sit down there too. You get to lay down there. You get to stand there. You get to just be in the space of receiving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And not judging it, making it okay to need support, to require healing from someone else. I don't know who said that we got it, that we're so strong we don't need it. Whoever started that, fie upon them. Fie upon them. Whoever said that, because we don't got it. We're figuring it out. We are traveling and walking this red road just like everybody else. We might be a little bit more in tune to the idea of it, but we're not separate from it. We are of this world and of this process.
It's almost this idea, like the word power keeps coming to me. So it's like this idea of what it means to be powerful or strong or able. It becomes synonymous with not having flaws, not being vulnerable, all these different things. And I think that's the disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
It's like those things are not synonymous, first of all. And second of all, I think to redefine what it means to be in your power, what it means to be vulnerable, what it means to be strong. You know, strength doesn't look like, and I got this and I don't need any help. Strength looks like I recognize what I need.
Yeah. Sometimes strength has no words. It just is.
And it's like whoever started this idea, whoever did, and how do we continue to perpetuate it? How we keep agreeing with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's that ego thing, I think. That martyrdom, that see how much I love you, I'm suffering for you, or see all the work I'm doing in the world, I'm so great. That's just so not sexy. That's not it.
Yeah.
It's not true. It's not. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, girl, you have permission if you ever see me tripping like that.
But it's like how are we going to reflect to the world healing if we don't attend to our own healing? Like, Spirit's like, just think about that. Think about that, guys. Just take a moment, think. How you are telling people heal, self-care, all things, but you're not doing that yourself. So now your actions aren't matching with your words.
Exactly. They're incongruent. They're not aligning. And this is why in the training, the work has to be done. We cannot ask them to not get stuck. Keep moving through this. Keep walking through this. This is not, we can't ask these moms, these people, these beings in labor going through this ultimate expansion to do something that we're not willing to do. If we can't move on from something, how are they going to move on?
Right? Because they're going to be like, how do I move on? And you're like, I don't know.
Just do it.
Can you imagine? You're like, well, I don't know. I've never done
Figure it out.
So.
I never figured that out. I'll be here when you're done. Yeah, that's not it.
That is not sexy. Like you said, it's not sexy.
It's really corny. Yeah.
And I think part of the healing that, I'm sure a lot of people need this. Even in taking on the work we take on,
mm-hmm.
that is a reflection to people. Because again, we live in a society that's like, take on more work, do more things, and like all the different things. And agreeing to take on more work than is actually necessary, or agreeing to not be paid your worth, or not be shown some form of like desire to compensate, even if it's not monetary, like that does not hold space for us, and it doesn't teach people how to hold space for us. You know, I had a person reach out to me to commission me for one set of work. And so that was great. We were talking about it. And then they got so excited and we're seeing all the other things that I do. And they're like, oh my God, I just went down the rabbit hole of this too. She's like, would you be able to do like, you know, this work and then this work as well after that? And so I had a moment where I was just thinking about that. And of course, ego's like, oh, you can do all the things. You can like do this.
But just because you can doesn't mean you should.
And I was like, you know, let me check on it. Let me check, because maybe I'm like discounting myself. Because, you know, that's another thing too. It's like I discount myself. But then I was like, no, I was like, you know what? I was like, actually, you know, for me to do those are two different sets of work that require two different things. For me to do that in one day, I won't be able to. So pick which one you prefer. Now, if you want to spread it across 2 days, great. But this is how much it costs each day, and do it that way. But I can't do both.
Yeah.
So it's like right there, I'm advocating for myself, one. Two, I'm reflecting to that person, you know, this work is not just like, oh, willy-nilly. Not that they maybe thought that way, but I think people have this idea of spiritual work as being like airy-fairy and whatever. You're not like lifting heavy things. I'm like, first of all,
we're in the trenches. That's not what it is.
So part of Heal the Healers is like, heal that part of you that taps into that idea that you need to overexert yourself, kill yourself. And part of how the collective can support us is to understand the weight of what we do.
Right. And how we need to restore ourselves. You know, I need quiet sometimes. I need to be alone. I have a huge thing that I do to recover from birth, because it's as if I've got jet lag. Right? So I have to do certain things. I have to eat a certain way so that I can actually do it. And I am a huge, big fan of a loving, resounding no. I'm clear now. I'm older now, and I got it. I'm just like, yeah, that's beyond me, or I don't have. Yeah, no. And it doesn't change. I said, so I need you to hear me. I already answered. I love you so much, but you're going to have to find somebody else for that. I'm a no.
Yeah.
Some of the best things that we can do is honor our no and be able to actually speak our no.
Yeah. And to trust that life has us. Because again, in this capitalistic society where it's, again, we need money to survive, right?
Yep.
We've set up our everything that way. And, you know, to me, part of Heal the Healers is, you know, respect what they do and pay them accordingly, or provide some way for them to be okay.
Some type of energetic exchange.
And it's like, how many people say yes to things because, okay, I haven't made enough this month and I need to, versus not coming from a place of like anxiety or desperation.
I mean, that's another reason why that's in the training. You know, what is your why? Your why has to be huge.
Yeah.
And then just understanding what you need and what you're available for and what you're willing to do, and not making choices out of fear or lack, but making choices out of your purpose, out of your intention, out of your desire.
Yeah. Out of your peace, your neutrality, and your awareness of what you require to do this work.
Exactly.
And when you're true to that, life has you. Spirit's like, okay, no, we got you.
It does. And it flows beautifully.
Yeah. Because you decline the one thing where they're not wanting to pay you, or they're not wanting to give you the things, from this place of, no, I know what and who I am, so that is not going to work with me. And then so it's like, oh, we see your intent, and we
co-sign that. Here.
Boom, boom,
boom. Yeah.
Because we're saying, I trust you, life, that I'm because I'm operating from my integrity and what I require, and I know I'm going to be okay, life's like, cool. You just
Exactly.
open doors to
And we trust that, you know,
trust.
and we trust that energy, and the energy that is the infinite understanding of what we're up to, that brings us our people. That is why I'm not going to sit here and compete with anybody. I'm not going to malign people's energy. I'm not going to backtalk. I don't do that.
Mm,
Who's mine is mine. Who's yours is yours. There's enough for everyone. There is no lack. And when we're coming from a place of lack and fear,
yeah.
it inevitably becomes such an intense work relationship, so hard and awful. And it's just, for me, not worth it. You
Mm-mm.
know, so when people are interviewing me, I'm interviewing them, and I'm checking out the energy and the vibe. Do I want to be in this space? Do I feel safe to be who
Yeah.
I fully, completely am in this
Mm,
space with this people? Can I fall in love with these people
yeah.
to support them unconditionally, ego free,
Yeah.
and then disappear? You know, it's a drop in time. It's a moment, a powerful moment for these families, that they are inviting me into this sacred space,
Yeah.
which means I cannot just walk in there half-assed. I have to do my work before I meet them,
Mm-mm.
before I go into my meetings with them, set my intentions, and especially do the work I need to do when they go into labor and before I come in. And then there's the recovery. After the birth, what do you do? How do you take care of yourself? What do you need? But it all has to come from a place of trust, you know?
And the recognition that you will hold the responsibility for what is your part,
Mm-hmm.
and that they will hold the responsibility for what is their part. Because what happens is the healers
Yeah.
are attempting to take responsibility for the entire thing.
Right. Right. But we can't want it more than they want it. I
We can't.
cannot want an outcome in birth more than my family wants it, because then I'm leading it and not the mother, and
We
not
got
that soul that's coming through who has a say as well.
my pure bioenergy teacher, Zorn Hochstetter. I credit him for really instilling in me what my chiropractor was seeing. That I was, he was like, you could care less. What? He's like, you really care, and that's funny, right? The paradox. Like,
I
you
know.
really care, but you don't care. Because my is like, I'm like, okay, I'm here.
I
You
totally
coming or
get that.
not? You coming or not? I told a girl, one of my clients who tried to stop midway through her therapy with me because some stuff was coming up, and I told her, I was like, get here now. And I was like, don't ever do that again with me. Because she was having challenges with the finances and things. And I was like,
But that's a part of that healing. That's why she's coming to you in the first place. People don't understand the things that are presenting in our life
uh-huh,
is rooting and coming from our inner life.
uh-huh.
So if it's coming up, that's the perfect time. I'm so glad
Perfect
you
time.
said,
I
get
was
over
like,
here.
yeah, I was like, where are you? You're late. And all these excuses. I was like, when have I not worked with you and helped you as far as like payment? So did you not consider to call me before? I'm like, hey, this is my circumstance. How?
I
And she
love
was
that
like,
type
I
of
don't.
transparency, because it also provides you the opportunity to show up in compassion.
Yeah,
Who
and
knows
not
how you're
feel
going to
bad
show up?
about it. Not feel bad. That's that like, oh, soon and I was like, I will cut
Exactly.
you and keep on oppressing without looking back because you're in the way of
Oh,
where the energy needs to flow.
get out of the way.
I told her, get here. She got here and she was, and I said, don't ever do that again with me. She was crying. I was like, cry, good. I'm glad you're
Release all
crying.
that. Yeah.
Because this is part of the session. And I'll see you the next 2 days. I'll see you the next 2 days. Don't do that again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love
I
you. Mean it.
exactly.
Really.
No, and really, but I don't, it really hurts me to see people give up on themselves. And it hurts me to see a birthing mama giving up. And it's just about reminding them, that everything they need, spirit is already placed within them. Everything they need is already happening. To trust that. I'm like, don't give up on yourself, mama. Keep going. Keep going. Dig a little deeper. You got this. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. Again, and the reason you're able to do that powerfully is because you stand in your own power and your own recognition, which again doesn't look like I'm hard. It can look like just like let it all. And that surrender, that release is when spirit can come through and just give you that boost that you need. But sometimes you have to get there. That's part of the dying too, right?
Yeah.
The ego dies, that part of you that's like, I'm going to surrender and let something higher just come through and just help me move through this canal as the child is moving
right.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting to find out why people want to hold on to the things that are blocking them from being who they are destined to be, who they were placed to be. Like, this life is about, like I said this, I think in our interview last week, that the hard part is getting born. That's the hard part. That millions of things have to happen at the right millisecond. Out of nothingness, which is so full of everything, comes this life force, comes this being, the soul, through the sacred portal. And then a million things have to happen for that part to begin. And then you're here. What are you going to do with it? This is the canvas. Life is the canvas where we get to express and love and create and participate and make mistakes so that we can get great. And then be happy and ready to have that last breath to merge back into the infinite love source that is. Why would you stop that? You know, it's just like, let's start asking ourselves these questions so we can go deeper into our existence, so we can go deeper into our purpose, so that we can be, profoundly activated people.
You know what I think it is?
Tell me.
I mean, it's
what do you think it is, sis? What is it?
I think, or one of the things coming through now, is that because in spirit, it's infinite, right? Like there's no beginning or ending to our spirit. They're just massive, infinite. So when we are in these bodies that are like limited, constricting, all the things, and then on top of that is projected all the different things humans project onto each other based on all the different things. It's like we trick ourselves into thinking we're smaller than we are, so then we stay smaller. We don't remember our permission to be who we are, because we have this idea that like our big spirit is in this little body. And something that I'm remembering that Bashar said, and
I love Bashar.
He's one of my mentors, is, most people have the perspective that the spirit is in the body. So when you think, when you think about it that way, it's like, whoo, spirit in body. And so people think, oh, your spirit leaves your body, it's your body. But he says, no. He's like, actually, your body is in your spirit.
Exactly. Within us are worlds and universes. We have so much room. And whenever I feel tight or small, that's when I know, oh, I'm about to expand. I'm about to grow. I've reached the edge of myself. So let me spread my wings, expand my wings, and just soar again.
Like all you can do is soar. Like your spirit chose your body as like one avenue through which it gets to express itself. But that's one component. It's not the only, the soul component. I think that that was one answer. I'm sure there's, many people can come up with many
exactly.
answers.
And I hope they do start questioning and asking themselves.
But it's like that idea of we feel like we're constricted because of the containers we have chosen versus, well, how do I use this container to be an expression of my expansiveness?
That's the question. It's all about perspective and point of view. It really is. Perspective is just so powerful. Yeah.
Again, the healers get to be healed. The doulas and birth workers get to birth themselves. They're always
all
birthing
the time.
themselves. Like we get to experience, we didn't come here to suffer. And we didn't come here to just give without receive, receive, receive.
Well, we can't. If there's no reciprocity, there's a dying and a shriveling up that happens.
Yeah.
I love our silences because when we get silent, it's so loud. It's beautiful. And you just, all of it. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Thank you
for allowing time for this conversation. I'm thrilled to share this different aspect of you and your work to my platform. And I just want people to have knowledge that you're there and what you're up to and what you're doing. When is your next interview?
My next interview is this Wednesday. I'm lining things up. I hope it all works out, you know. But yeah, next interview is this Wednesday, and I'm hoping to have people in the medical field, specifically an ER nurse, a psychiatric nurse potentially.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. We'll make it happen. If not, I'll be by myself. I'll just be talking.
And it will be fun. It'll be fabulous. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, keep me in the flow. I would love to know so I can share, and you know, it matters to me that you are really well received for the gifts that you bring.
Thank you.
I love you. I adore you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Haize. Thank you for who you are and how you show up for us, how you heal so that we can heal.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Have a beautiful week. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.